I never thought a drone purchase for landscape photography would become the instrument that destroyed my 9-year marriage. Everything started with a shadow in a photograph. An ordinary shadow that I noticed by chance while reviewing Rachel's pictures from another trip to the Grand Canyon. My name is Robin. I'm 33 years old, and I work as a manager at a small transportation company here in Las Vegas. My wife, Rachel, is a talented interior designer who always loved nature more than the neon lights of our city. She had this way of talking about the canyon, describing the red rocks with such passion that I sometimes felt jealous of those ancient formations. She went to the canyon almost every weekend. Sometimes she took her friend Melissa, sometimes she went alone. I wasn't worried. She had 10 years of hiking experience, knew those trails like the back of her hand. We have 2 children, a 6-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter, and on Saturdays I stayed with them while Rachel enjoyed her freedom among the red cliffs. But that shadow, the silhouette of a man with a backpack, in one photo, then in another, and another one, always at different angles, but the size of the backpack seemed the same. Maybe it was just a random tourist? There are thousands of them in the canyon. I started looking more carefully. Every trip, every photo, the shadows weren't always there, but often enough to cause concern. I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid, but something inside me screamed that I was right. The pattern was too consistent to be coincidental. The same general build, the same type of backpack, appearing in photos taken weeks apart. I spent 3 evenings going through her cloud storage, zooming in on every image, comparing backgrounds and timestamps. My hand shook as I opened each new folder. Part of me wanted to find nothing, to prove my suspicions wrong. But the detective in me couldn't stop searching. I made a spreadsheet, documenting each occurrence of the mysterious shadow, noting dates and locations. Then I decided to talk to Melissa. I met her at the coffee shop where she liked to work remotely. It was a Thursday afternoon, and the place was half empty. She was typing on her laptop when I approached, and I saw her expression change the moment she recognized me. "Melissa, tell me honestly, did anyone else go hiking with you?" She turned pale and looked away. Her fingers stopped moving on the keyboard. She closed the laptop slowly, buying herself time to think. "Robin, I'm your friend and her friend too. I can't be the reason for problems in your marriage. Ask Rachel yourself." That was all I needed to hear. If there was nobody, she would have just said no. Her refusal to answer was an answer. I could see it in her eyes, the guilt, the conflict, the knowledge of something she wished she didn't know. "How long have you known?" I pressed. "I can't do this," she said, gathering her things. "I'm sorry, Robin. I really am. But this conversation needs to be with Rachel, not with me." She left the coffee shop quickly, almost running. I sat there for another hour, staring at my cold cup of coffee, feeling my world slowly crumbling around me. I rented a car with cash. Didn't want Rachel to see an unfamiliar car charge on our bank account. I withdrew $500 from an ATM across town, using the account I kept from before our marriage. The rental place was a small outfit on the outskirts of the city, the kind that doesn't ask too many questions if you pay in cash. The next Saturday, when she was getting ready to leave, I told the kids I was going to work. Urgent business. My son looked disappointed. We had planned to go to the park. I promised him we'd go on Sunday instead, forcing a smile that felt like it might crack my face. I parked a few houses down from our apartment and waited. The morning was already hot, typical for Las Vegas in summer. I had a baseball cap pulled low, sunglasses on, feeling ridiculous and paranoid and justified all at once. Rachel left at 8 in the morning. I kept my distance, following her down the highway. She really did go to Melissa's place, picked her up, and together they drove to the canyon. I followed, my heart pounding so hard it seemed audible even in the car cabin. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel, and I had to keep wiping them on my jeans. They parked in the usual spot. I waited 15 minutes, then carefully followed them onto the trail. Kept my distance, hid behind rocks. The Arizona sun was merciless, and I hadn't brought enough water. I was so focused on staying hidden that I didn't think about practical things like hydration and sunscreen. But I saw nothing, only Rachel and Melissa walking together, laughing, taking selfies. They stopped at a scenic overlook, and I watched through binoculars I'd bought at a sporting goods store that morning. It looked like what they were supposed to be. Two friends enjoying nature. Nothing suspicious. No mysterious third person. In the evening, I stopped at a campground nearby. I couldn't go home yet. Couldn't face the kids with this uncertainty eating at me. I told them via text that the work emergency would keep me overnight. My son sent back a sad emoji. That little yellow face made me feel like the worst father in the world. The next day, they returned to the car. Again, just the two of them. No strange man. I drove home disappointed, but Melissa's words wouldn't leave me alone. The way she had looked at me, the guilt in her eyes, it meant something. She knew something she wasn't telling me. 2 weeks later, Rachel was planning another trip. I rented a car again, this time took a small, quiet drone I had bought online. I'd spend hours watching YouTube tutorials on how to operate it discreetly, how to keep it at a distance where it wouldn't be heard. The practice flights in the desert outside the city had been nerve-wracking. I kept expecting someone to ask what I was doing. But this time, she didn't go to Melissa's place. Rachel's car headed straight down the highway to the canyon. My stomach dropped as I realized this was it. This was going to be the day I'd find out the truth. I arrived at the familiar parking lot and saw her car. Rachel stood beside it, looking at her phone. The morning sun caught her hair, making it shine auburn, and for a moment I remembered why I had fallen in love with her. Then I remembered why I was here, and my jaw tightened. 15 minutes later, another car pulled up. A man got out, tall, athletic about our age. Dark hair, expensive hiking gear, confident movements. They hugged, not like friends, like lovers. The hug lasted too long. His hand lingered on her lower back, her face pressed into his neck. I froze, watched as they checked their backpacks, as he touched her hand, as she laughed. That laugh, I knew that laugh. It was the laugh she used to give me years ago, before kids and mortgages and routine had worn it away. Then they went onto the trail. I waited 5 minutes, then followed, staying far behind. In places where I might lose sight of them, I launched the drone. On the screen, I saw them, walking side by side. Sometimes he took her hand. They stopped at a viewpoint, and he pulled her close, kissed her forehead. She leaned into him like she belonged there. I recorded everything. Every touch, every smile, every intimate gesture. The drone's camera captured all in high definition. Part of me wanted to stop watching, to fly the drone into a rock and pretend I'd seen nothing. But I kept recording, kept following, kept documenting my wife's betrayal. But after an hour, something unexpected happened. They turned back to the parking lot. I barely had time to hide behind another car. They got into his car and drove back toward Las Vegas. I followed them, not understanding what was happening. This wasn't the pattern I'd expected. Why drive all the way to the canyon just to turn back? Before I continue, please pause the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new interesting stories. Thank you. They stopped at a roadside motel, cheap, nondescript, with a flickering neon sign that advertised hourly rates. The place looked exactly like what it was, somewhere people went when they didn't want to be seen. He took a room. They went inside. I waited 10 minutes, my heart hammering, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. Then I approached the reception desk. The kid behind the counter was maybe 19, absorbed in his phone, barely looked up when I approached. "Do you have a room available next to 117? The guy looked at the computer. 118 is free. Wall to wall. Perfect. I'll take it. I checked in, my heart beating rapidly. In the room, I took a metal camping cup, pressed it against the outlet in the wall, and listened. The voices were muffled, indistinct. I could hear the rhythm of conversation, but not the words. It was torture, knowing they were there, but not knowing what they were saying. But after half an hour, other sounds started. The bed. Moans. Her voice. That voice I thought I knew, making sounds I hadn't heard in years. Sounds of pleasure, of abandon, of intimacy that we'd lost somewhere along the way. I pulled back from the wall, feeling everything inside me turn over. I wanted to break down the door, wanted to scream, but I stopped myself. If I just burst in, she'd say it was the first time, that she made a mistake, that it meant nothing. I needed evidence. Not for court, for everyone who would ask why our marriage fell apart. I got out a voice recorder, turned on recording, and pressed it to the wall. recorded for 5 minutes. The sounds were clear enough, unmistakable enough. Then I turned on the camera on my phone, started video recording, and went out into the corridor. I knocked on door 117. My hand was steady even though my insides were shaking. Footsteps. Silence. Then the door opened. Rachel stood there in a bathrobe, hair disheveled. Seeing me, she turned so pale it seemed she might lose consciousness. "Robin, who's with you in a room?" I asked calmly, holding the phone so the camera captured her face. "Robin, please." "Who's there, Rachel?" From deep inside the room came a man's voice. "Rachel, what's going on?" She turned and shouted. "Stay inside." "What?" I raised my voice. "Is he afraid to come out? Afraid to look me in the eye?" "Robin, let's go into the room." Talk calmly. "This is a hallway. Everyone will hear." "I'm disgusted to enter a room where you just slept with another man," I said, my voice shaking but holding steady. "We'll talk in my room, or in the parking lot. Your choice." She looked at me, then at the phone in my hand. "You are recording?" "Yes. For the record. So later no one says I'm lying." "Turn it off." "No." She stared at the floor, then said, "Give me 2 minutes to get dressed." "You have one." She closed the door. I heard muffled voices, hers and his. A minute later she came out, dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. I walked to my room, she followed. Going inside, I left the door open, didn't want to be alone with her in a closed space. Put the phone on the dresser so the camera filmed both of us. "How long?" I asked. She was silent, wringing her hands. "How long, Rachel?" 3 months, she said quietly. 3 months. Summer. All this time, while I took care of our children, while I trusted her, while I believed her stories about hiking and nature and finding herself. "Who is he?" She sighed. "Oliver. We were together before I met you. He moved to California. We lost touch. And then he came back to Vegas 3 months ago. Wrote to me on social media. And you immediately decided to meet?" "No. We just exchanged messages at first. He told me about his life. I told him about mine. Then he suggested we meet just as old friends. And you went to him instead of the canyon?" "At first we just had coffee. Talked. It was innocent." "Innocent," I repeated. "And now? Is this innocent too?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't plan it, Robin. I didn't want this to happen. It's just, he understood me. He remembered who I was before. We talked about things I can't talk to you about." "Like what?" "About my dreams. About how I wanted to travel the world, see architecture from different countries, study in Europe. But instead I'm here, in Vegas, designing casino hotels for rich clients who don't even appreciate my work. I always supported your career. You supported what brought in money. When I talked about studying abroad, you said we have a mortgage and kids. Because we do. We're adults with responsibilities. And Oliver offers me to leave all of this. He's opening a startup in San Francisco. Wants me to join as a designer. Says I'm too talented for this city." I stared at her. "You're planning to leave? Abandon me and the kids for some guy who promised you stars from the sky?" "I don't know." She raised her voice. "I'm confused, Robin. I love you. I love our children, but I also love him. He reminds me of who I could have become. You could have become a single mother who abandoned her children for fantasies. Don't be so cruel." "Cruel? I just found out my wife has been cheating on me for 3 months. Wasn't going on hikes, but to another man's bed. And you're asking me to be gentle?" She started crying. "I didn't want to hurt you. I really loved you." "Love you." Past tense, Rachel. Past tense. If you loved me, you wouldn't be here. People can love more than one person. "No," I interrupted. "Not in marriage. In marriage, you choose. And you chose him." Silence fell. Only the distant hum of cars on the highway could be heard. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Get divorced." "Robin, maybe we can." "What? Try again? You want me to trust you after this? So that every time you leave the house, I wonder where you really are." "I'll stop seeing him. I promise." "Your promises are worthless. You promised to be faithful 9 years ago. Remember? In sickness and in health, till death do us part." She sobbed. "I was happy with you. For a long time. But then something changed. We became like roommates, not like a married couple. When was the last time we talked about something besides bills and kids? Don't blame your betrayal on me. I'm not blaming. I'm just explaining. Explanations aren't needed. Facts speak for themselves. On Monday, I'm filing for divorce. What about the kids? What will we tell the kids? The truth. That mommy fell in love with another man and doesn't want to live with daddy anymore. You can't tell them that. Why not? It's the truth. They're too young to understand. Then you make up a story. You're good at making up stories. 3 months of practice. She stood up. I'm leaving. This is pointless. Wait, I said. One more question. Did Melissa know? Rachel stopped. Yes. I told her a week after it started. She tried to convince me to stop. But you didn't stop. No. And she went with you to the canyon as a cover. A few times. But not always. Sometimes I really went alone. And sometimes you went to Oliver. Yes. I nodded. Both of you go to hell. You and your accomplice. Rachel left the room. I heard her knock on door 117, heard it open, heard her go inside. I turned off the recording and sat on the bed, trembling. Returning home the next day, I reviewed all the recordings. Audio, video, everything was clear. Then copied everything to a flash drive and to the cloud. On Monday, I called a lawyer. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia who came highly recommended, listened to my story without interruption. When I showed her the recordings, she nodded slowly. This is solid evidence, she said. But I need to tell you something. In Nevada, we have no-fault divorce. This evidence won't necessarily get you a better settlement, but it might help with custody if she contests it. She won't contest it, I said. Not once I show her I'm willing to make everything public. Patricia raised an eyebrow. I wouldn't recommend using the recordings as blackmail. It's not blackmail. It's ensuring my children have stability. The divorce process lasted 4 months. Rachel initially tried to fight for joint custody, but when I threatened to show the recordings in court, she backed down. We agreed on joint custody, but the kids lived primarily with me. The hardest part was telling the parents, mine and hers. I showed them the recordings. My parents supported me. My mother cried, not for the end of my marriage, but for what Rachel had thrown away. My father, a retired military man who valued honor above all else, simply said, "You did the right thing documenting everything. Never go into battle without reconnaissance." Rachel's parents initially didn't believe it. Her father, a proud man who had walked her down the aisle, demanded to see proof. When I showed them, they were shocked. Her mother called her and said she was ashamed to have such a daughter. I heard Rachel broke down completely during that call, begging for understanding, getting none. Rachel moved to a small apartment on the other side of town. Oliver waited for her to move to San Francisco with him, but she didn't go. He called her a month after the divorce and said he wouldn't wait forever. She told him she couldn't leave the kids. He cut all ties. I learned about this from Melissa, who, it turned out, was also more outraged by Rachel's actions than she had shown. She called me 2 months after the divorce and told me everything. Said that Rachel was now alone, had lost Oliver, lost me, lost the respect of her family. She cries every day, Melissa said. Says she made the biggest mistake of her life. That's not my problem, I replied. I know. I just wanted you to know. Why? I asked. Why are you telling me this? Melissa was quiet for a moment. Because I feel guilty. I should have told you sooner. I should have refused to cover for her. I was trying to be a good friend to her, but I ended up being a terrible friend to you. You were in an impossible position. That doesn't make it right. I'm sorry, Robin. Truly sorry. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment. The kids were at Rachel's for the weekend and thought about forgiveness. Could I forgive Melissa? Probably. Eventually. Could I forgive Rachel? That was a different question entirely. A year passed. The children adapted to the new reality. My son stopped asking when mommy was coming home. My daughter, younger and more resilient, seemed to accept the situation as normal. We established routines, found our rhythm as a family of 3. I met another woman, good, honest, who loved my children. Her name was Jennifer, and she was a teacher in my son's school. We met at a parent-teacher conference, started talking about books, discovered we had similar tastes. She asked me out for coffee, and I almost said no, almost said I wasn't ready. But something in her smile made me take the chance. Jennifer knew my history. I told her everything on our 3rd date, expecting her to run. Instead, she said, "You did what you had to do. That takes strength. We weren't rushing, but I felt like I could trust again. She met the kids after 2 months of dating. They liked her immediately. She didn't try to replace Rachel, didn't overstep boundaries, just offered friendship and kindness. Slowly, carefully, we were building something new. Rachel was still alone. She saw the kids every other weekend, the arrangement we'd agreed to. The first few exchanges were tense, both of us speaking in clipped, formal tones. But eventually, we found a way to be civil, to focus on the children, to put aside our history for their sake. She looked different now, older somehow, though only a year had passed. The light that used to shine in her eyes had dimmed. She dressed more conservatively, moved more carefully, as if she was afraid of taking up too space. Once, when she came to pick up the kids, I saw her car, filled with design books and sketches. She was still working, still creating, but something was missing. Between us, there was only brief conversation about their affairs. No closeness, no friendship, only parental cooperation. When she looked at me, I sometimes saw regret in her eyes, a question she never voiced. Could we have fixed this? Could I have chosen differently? But I never gave her an answer. That bridge had burned completely, and I had no interest in rebuilding it from ashes. Sometimes I thought about that day at the motel, about the shadow in the photograph that started this whole chain of events, about how one moment of attention changed everything. Some people said I should have tried to forgive. My mother suggested couples therapy. A coworker said everyone makes mistakes. But I didn't regret my decision. Some things can't be restored. Trust is one of them. Rachel hadn't made one mistake. She'd made dozens of them, hundreds of choices over 3 months, each one a decision to betray me, to betray our family, to choose Oliver over the life we'd built together. The shadow in the photograph wasn't just a man with a backpack. It was the truth trying to reveal itself. It was my subconscious noticing what my conscious mind didn't want to see. We see what we want to see until we can't anymore, until the evidence becomes too overwhelming to ignore. I kept the drone. Sometimes on quiet Sunday mornings when the kids were with Rachel, I'd take it out to the desert and fly it over the landscape. The Nevada desert has its own beauty, harsh, unforgiving, honest. The drone's camera captured red rocks and vast emptiness, the truth of the land without filter or pretense. Once 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Oliver. It was at a gas station on the outskirts of Vegas. I recognized him immediately from the motel parking lot. He was filling up a rental car, probably passing through on his way back to San Francisco. He saw me looking and froze. For a moment, we just stared at each other. I wondered if he knew who I was, if Rachel had shown him pictures. His expression suggested he did. I walked over. He tensed, probably expecting violence. But I was calm, had moved past the rage that had consumed me months ago. "You're Oliver," I said. It wasn't a question. "Yeah." His voice was guarded. "I'm Robin, Rachel's ex-husband." He nodded slowly. "I figured. You destroyed my family." "She destroyed her family," he said. I was there." "That's a coward's answer." He looked away. "You're right. It is. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I knew she was married. I pursued her anyway. That's on me." "Why? Why what? Why did you do it? Why pursue a married woman with kids?" Oliver was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he said, "Because I loved her. Because I thought I could give her the life she deserved. Because I was selfish and stupid and convinced myself that love justified everything." "Did it?" "No, it didn't. She chose her kids over me, as she should have. I respect that. But it doesn't change what we did to you. At least you admit it. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't fix anything." "No," I agreed. "It doesn't." We stood there in uncomfortable silence, the desert sun beating down on us, the smell of gasoline strong in the air. "She asks about you," Oliver said suddenly. "When we text sometimes. She wants to know if you're okay, if you've moved on. You still talk to her, as friends. Nothing more. That ship sailed when she chose to stay in Vegas. Tell her I'm fine. Tell her I've moved on. Tell her she should too." Oliver nodded. We shook hands, awkwardly, and went our separate ways. I never saw him again. 2 years after the divorce, Jennifer and I got engaged. The kids were excited, already calling her Jenny, and asking when she'd officially be part of the family. I proposed at the Grand Canyon, ironically enough, the place where Rachel's betrayal had begun. We stood at the South Rim, the kids playing nearby, and I got down on one knee. Jennifer cried, said yes, and we held each other as the sun set over the canyon, painting the rocks in shades of red and gold. I had to tell Rachel, of course. She had a right to know that someone new would be in the children's lives permanently. I called her that evening, after the kids were asleep. Rachel, I need to tell you something. What is it? Her voice was wary. I proposed to Jennifer today. She said yes. Silence on the other end. Then, the kids are happy about it. They love her. That's good. They deserve to be happy. Rachel, no, Robin, really. I mean it. I'm glad you found someone. I'm glad the kids have someone good in their lives. I just wish. Wish what? I wish it was different. I wish I had been different. I wish I'd appreciated what I had when I had it. We can't change the past. I know, but sometimes I lie awake at night and think about that day at the motel, about you knocking on the door. And I think about what would have happened if I'd ended it with Oliver before that, if I'd been brave enough to be honest with you, if I'd chosen my family over a fantasy. Would you have? I asked. If I hadn't caught you, would you have ended it? She was quiet for so long, I thought she'd hung up. Then I don't know. I like to think yes, but I don't know. And that's what scares me. You made your choices, Rachel. Now you live with them. I am. Every day. When I wake up alone, when I see the kids called Jennifer Jenny, when I remember what it felt like to have a family. I'm living with them. The kids still love you. I know, and I'm grateful for that. More than you know. We said goodbye. It was the longest conversation we'd had in 2 years, and probably the last real conversation we'd ever have. Jennifer and I got married 6 months later. It was a small ceremony, just family and close friends. The kids were in the wedding party, my son as ring bearer, my daughter as flower girl. They were so proud, so happy, wearing their formal clothes and taking their roles seriously. Rachel didn't attend, of course, but she sent a gift, a set of hand-drawn architectural sketches of dream houses, one for each child, imagining where they might live when they grew up. It was beautiful work, heartbreaking in its detail and care. Jennifer hung them in the kids' rooms, understanding the gift for what it was, a mother's love, expressed the only way she knew how. Life moved on. Jennifer got pregnant with our child, a boy we named Samuel. My older children were thrilled to have a baby brother. We bought a bigger house, one with a yard and a dog, and all the trappings of suburban stability. Rachel continued with her life too. I heard through Melissa that she'd started dating again, someone stable and kind who worked in education. I hoped it worked out for her. Despite everything, despite the betrayal and the pain, I didn't wish her unhappiness. I just wished her gone from my emotional landscape. Sometimes, rarely now, I take out the old photos from our marriage. Pictures of us young and in love, of our wedding day, of the births of our children. I look at Rachel's face in those photos and try to reconcile that woman with the one who had betrayed me. They seem like different people, and maybe they were. People change, circumstances change, and sometimes love isn't enough to hold it all together. The drone sat in my garage, mostly unused now. I didn't need it for surveillance anymore. Didn't want it for landscape photography. It was a relic of the worst time in my life, a tool that had revealed truth I didn't want to face. But I kept it, not out of sentiment or nostalgia, but as a reminder that intuition matters, that shadows and photographs can reveal hidden truths, that sometimes the smallest details contain the biggest revelations. A reminder that trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired, only replaced with something new. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Maybe YouTube will no longer offer you my channel, so subscribe to it by clicking subscribe on the right under the video to receive new interesting stories. Also on the right of the video, there is a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to, and you can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.